Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, June 19th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect partly sunny skies, possible thunderstorms, and a high of 90 degrees. San Antonians will be celebrating Juneteenth throughout the day today, including a morning march, afternoon protest, and an evening block party. We'll provide coverage from the scene. Our 52 Weeks of Pizza series will have a report from a Southtown pizzeria which has endured both the hardship of COVID-19 and a change of ownership. The San Antonio Museum of Art and Poet Laureate Andrea Vocab Sanderson have launched a project to empower people to send messages to government officials. Look out for that story later today. And now, here are your top headlines for the day. More than 100,000 Texans, whose fate has been in limbo for nearly 3 years, were given a long-awaited, albeit temporary, reprieve on Thursday. The Supreme Court blocked President Donald Trump's move to end protections for some immigrants brought to the country illegally as children. The first people Andrea Fernandez contacted after the Supreme Court's DACA ruling were her undocumented parents. Vale la pena por todo lo que ha luchado, her mother texted her, telling Fernandez her fight for fellow dreamers has been worth it. A staunch advocate for the rights of undocumented people, today Fernandez works for the Texas Business Immigrant Coalition. Find out how other advocates reacted to this decision. Facing record-breaking job losses, lawmakers in late March boosted unemployment checks by $600 per week to help tens of millions of newly unemployed workers get by. But with the new unemployment claims still at historic highs, a question looms. What happens when the $600 weekly benefit expires after July? Diego Mendoza Moyer explores the arguments for and against extending federal benefits and what some of the proposed plans include. Columnist Gilbert Garcia writes, "The best part of Tuesday's letter to Governor Greg Abbott came when the mayor turned mid-March Abbott against mid-June Abbott. They did so by employing the same logic the governor used to defend his early reluctance to act. A one-size-fits-all approach is not the best option," the mayor's letter stated. "We should trust local officials to make informed choices about health policy." Garcia translates that letter and explains how the Bexar County judge called the governor's bluff. More than 1,300 athletes participate in the top subdivision of college football. Most of these players are younger than 23 and in prime physical condition, which means they're part of a group said to be least at risk of serious coronavirus complications. Mike Finger writes, "I want college football to come back." You probably want college football to come back. But before it does, there are some questions that need to be discussed. His first question, how many of those 1,300 players would we have to lose for us to decide that that risk is unacceptable? The question gets harder when you look beyond players and beyond deaths as a measuring stick. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more in your Express News subscription. San Antonio officials reported 408 new coronavirus cases and 2 new deaths on Thursday as a resurgence of COVID-19 continued unabated. Juneteenth, marking one of the most significant milestones in Texas history, is now celebrated across the country, and this year's celebrations are taking on added significance as protests against police brutality roil communities. The Express News editorial board writes, "Let's take advantage of this new appreciation of Juneteenth by declaring it a national holiday and recognizing it as this nation's second Independence Day." San Antonio could cut $109 million in city spending over the next 2 years based on projections showing that the pandemic-induced economic crisis will take years to subside. In a prepared statement on Thursday, Education Commissioner Mike Morath said Texas schools will be safe places for student and staff to return in the upcoming school year, although families with health concerns will receive flexibility to continue online learning. Nearly 94,000 workers in Texas filed for unemployment last week, the 13th consecutive week of mass job losses statewide and across the nation. The Texas Eagle train service to Chicago will be reduced to 3 times a week, the victim of coronavirus-induced budget cuts by Amtrak. With prospective buyers staying home and job losses mounting in early spring, home builders watched sales slide. But falling interest rates and the reopen of Texas businesses helped boost home building activity in May and June so far. City Council's Public Safety Committee held its second listening session Thursday. Over 20 citizens spoke, most of them calling for police reform. A judge has ruled in favor of two statewide teachers' unions in a lawsuit against the Texas Education Agency that stemmed from an agreement to let New York-based Charter Network manage an SAISD elementary school. Against the backdrop of widespread protests to end systematic racism and police brutality against blacks and other minorities, San Antonio Councilman Robert Trevino wants the city to consider renaming Columbus Park. Law professor Erica B. Schomer writes, "One of the benefits of DACA's fate being in the news so much for so long is that we have learned that dreamers have the support of wide swaths of America, including many business leaders and prominent conservatives." The Italian standouts Battalion and Playland Pizza have reopened their dining rooms at limited capacity. But the stylish seafood destination Rebelle and its companion bar Haunt remain closed with the St. Anthony Hotel where they reside. We caught up with Bowers to check on the state of San Antonio restaurants from someone who lives the life every day. Read our interview with the outspoken chef, Stephen Bowers. And now, the fun stuff. As another South Texas summer stokes its fires, San Antonio Fruterias fight back with cool treats on multiple fronts. There are fruit stands and snack bars, there are snow cone shops and ice cream parlors, there are juice bars and soda fountains, there are whatever it is that made Piccadilly Raspas a thing. Here are 10 of the city's best places for fruit cups, mangonadas, aguas frescas, and a rainbow of Mexican-inspired cold creations. It's time for area tomato gardens to harvest the remaining fruit. Pull the old plants and prepare for the fall crop, writes Kelvin Finch. And Neil Sperry answers readers' questions about tomato plants and more in his weekly column. The Spurs have given the New York Knicks permission to interview assistant Will Hardy for their vacant head coaching position. In the same week, 5 Texas State football players tested positive for COVID-19. A total of 13 Texas Longhorn players have also tested positive for the virus. Mabry Williams, who will be the freshman at Johnson this fall, garnered national attention and an ESPY nomination for her viral trick shot video. This was your Express Briefing. My name is Luis Vasquez. Consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast in your Apple Podcast apps, as it will really help the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.